Hi everyone, welcome to today's Variety Hour. We're really excited to be joined by five fantastic speakers today. Three speed presentations that are talking about, I think we've got three actual projects today, which is really cool, that people have been building to share. And then, so we're going to have Katie, Jay, and Jake and Holly talk about their projects. We'll have intermission with our new quizmaster, Henry. And then Dan's going to take it away for a longer presentation in which he has informed me he is breaking the mold and changing how we're doing things. There will be no PowerPoint. We're going off script, so everyone look forward to that. First, I'm going to throw over to our first speaker, which I think I've put Katie as our first speaker. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
I'm really excited. Just to preface, I've invited Katie because you shared this design on Twitter and Wild Labs, and we've heard a lot about it from our community about how interested people were about it. And also it got a good mention in our last Variety Hour as well. So we're excited that you were able to join us this month and share it more in person. So thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for inviting me. So I'm Dr. Katie Dunkley, a junior research fellow at the University of Cambridge. And today I'm going to talk to you about a long-term stereo camera we've designed and tested that records aquatic species presence, abundance, and behavior over around 2 days. So the camera rig is actually presented in more detail in our recent open access paper in Methods in Ecology and Evolution. So in ecological and behavioral studies, video, AI, and tracking methods are increasingly being used to autonomously identify species and quantify their abundance and behaviors. So these methods enable the analysis of large volumes of video data from which we can gain high resolution and autonomous insights into animals' movements, postures, and behaviors, allowing us to answer a wide range of ecological and conservation-focused questions. While such methods work well in lab environments, there are additional challenges when attempting to capture similar data in natural environments in which animals are free to move in three-dimensional space, varying in their depth and orientation in the Z plane. So this makes it challenging then to quantify their sizes, orientations, and movements. If we record in stereo, however, with two cameras capturing slightly different views of the same scene, we can then perceive these depth and three-dimensional information. So using this depth information, we're then able to quantify the locations, orientations, and movement trajectories of animals. And then these positional and movement data can then be used to autonomously quantify behaviors and interactions from video data. Now we can capture high quality and high resolution video in stereo with a camera setup that can also record longer than kind of the standard battery life of a normal underwater camera like a GoPro. We'll also be able to capture rarer species in complete behavioral repertoires, which will allow us to further our understanding on how wild animals interact with others and their environment. So therefore, we set out to design and build an underwater camera system that can continuously capture multi-day in situ three-dimensional stereo footage. So these cameras would then be useful for continuously recording aquatic species and their behaviors and interactions in high resolution. So the long-term camera we developed is based around a Raspberry Pi components and can record for up to 22 hours across 2 days. The Raspberry Pi camera here records in 1080p resolution and up to 30 frames per second, and the Pi saves the video onto an external hard drive. The camera is powered completely by a USB portable power bank that is simply plugged into the Pi board and can then be removed to charge. The real-time clock just down here is also lets users specify start and stop recording times, meaning that the cameras can automatically start and stop filming over multiple days. So the user can then modify video length, video quality, and quantity to suit different sampling designs. And we provide all of this open source instructions and running codes for these cameras on the project's GitHub. Now we place these camera components within a Blue Robotics ROV housing and screwed it onto our lightweight travel-friendly rig, which was constructed from aluminium profile. Now the rig is light enough to swim with in order to position it in its sort of desired position underwater, but it's also flat packed as well to allow for easy transport between sites. Now cameras are attached to the rig on fixed plates, which are angled inwards to capture this overlapping reef scene. or underwater scene, and the distance and angle between the two cameras can be adjusted by the user depending, again, on the study requirements. So once video data has then been collected, the videos from both cameras must be synchronized in time and space in order to triangulate and quantify things like animal size, positions, and orientations in 3 dimensions. So this synchronization first involves matching frames between the left and right cameras using a flashing light that's visible in both fields of view. And then following this temporal calibration, the relative positions of the cameras on the rig then need to be calculated, which you can do by detecting an object like a checkerboard here with known dimensions that's present in both cameras' fields of view. Now, once these calibration stages are then complete, it's then possible to project the location of key points from both the left and right cameras into 3-dimensional space. And we provide all the open source instructions for this calibration on the project's GitHub. These Python-based instructions are user-friendly, require minimal Python knowledge, and can be used for any camera setup actually that has a checkerboard for calibration. Now, before I finish, I just want to quickly highlight an issue that I had relating to camera focus that I had to deal with pretty quickly when we first started trialing these. So on our cameras, we fitted dome ports, which are advantageous over sort of a flat port front because they reduce refraction issues like magnification and radial distortion. However, then this initially creates problems then with camera focus. As for dome ports, the camera has to focus on a virtual image that's a lot closer to the camera than if there was a flat port. And it's unclear on land where this point is, which is super helpful. So after trial and error and lots of tweaking, we did manage to optimize the focus. And again, we've added additional information on this process to help others in the manuscript and on the project's GitHub. So today I've introduced our open source camera system, the rig and post-processing code, which offers a portable solution for recording and analyzing continuous 3D underwater video over extended periods. This system eliminates trade-offs between sampling frequency, resolution, and long-term data collection, which allows us to capture species presence, behaviors, and interactions in details within underwater environments. So these data are then crucial and helpful for addressing ecological questions related to how species impact aquatic ecosystem function. So while the cameras do work well, I'm actually looking to upgrade the Raspberry Pi high-quality camera for another and to optimize the focus further. So if anyone has any suggestions on suitable cameras that may work with this, I'd be really grateful to hear them. But otherwise, thanks very much for listening to me today. And if I have time, I'm more than happy to take any questions.
That was awesome. Thanks, Katie. I think people can pick your question up in the chat, and we'll also post it on Wild Labs as well, so you should get some feedback there. But Kim had a question. Robin, okay. Kim was wondering, is the data stored on SD cards, and do you ever encounter SD card corruption?
So the data is saved across to a solid state drive. Which are kind of a bit more stable than perhaps a micro SD card it's in the Pi. We use the solid state drive to sort of maximize the amount of data that can be stored in one deployment, but actually the file sizes from the camera are quite small. But we always download the data after every drop away onto sort of another hard drive. So we've got multiple copies, but haven't had any problems per se with the kind of corruption of the hard drive. Yeah.
Awesome. Kim gives you a thumbs up as a good choice. Robin's wondering, can you measure the size and volume of animals from the system?
Size and volume of the animals? Sorry.
Yeah.
So we were aiming to, can you measure? Yes. So as long as you have 2 points on the animal and they're triangulated in space, you then should be able to calculate the distance between them. So the calibration process takes the checkerboard with known dimensions, so you know the size of the board, and it then translates the coordinates then into real world measures. So you can sort of definitely quantify sizes of the animals from that. Yeah.
I have one question to wrap up. What was the most unexpected? Okay, Lauren's asking some more questions that you can pick up, but I was wondering, what was the most unexpected challenge that you found, like designing and building this system and deploying it?
Yeah, so my biggest challenge was actually the focus, and it was something that you don't think about until you actually see it underwater. Because on land the cameras went on a kind of a normal focus. They're in focus, and I was sort of focusing it like a GoPro, and trying to focus sort of infinitely. But then when you put them underwater, it was just like I showed in that video, is completely out. And then the actual optimal focus for underwater, if you look at the footage on land, it's out of focus. So it's quite counterintuitive, and really hard to figure out. And it took a huge amount of trial and error and kind of reading the theory to sort of fix it. And it's still my little bugbear, I think, with the cameras, actually.
Awesome. Okay, if anyone's got a suggestion on Katie's question about upgrading the camera and the Raspberry Pi, can you drop into the chat? But otherwise, thank you so much, Katie. We're going to move on to our next speaker, who is, I believe, it's Jay up next. Is that right?
I believe so.
It is, yes. And I have to thank Robin, I think. No, or Alistair. Someone tagged us in your thread on Twitter, sharing this setup, and it looked fantastic and something our community would be interested in, which is why I've invited you today. So thank you to whoever tagged us in that. I think it was Alistair Stewart.
I think it was Al.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm here to talk about where we're going to be talking more about recording in the field, and low-cost solutions for doing that. For me, my troubles were recording at night and nocturnal animals. So yeah, quick rundown, 60-second rundown of the study system that I work on. They're the ogre face spiders. They have the largest eyes of any spiders. They have one of the most sensitive visual systems of anything on Earth. And they're nocturnal. They hunt in one place all night long. They make this frame web, and within that web, they hold a net with their front legs, and they sling it down on top of prey. They use vision to catch things off of the ground, but they'll also react to airborne sounds and catch things out of the air. And I am interested in the sensory ecology of these spiders. There are a lot of these net casting spiders with massive differences in sensory systems. I'm trying to understand what they use them for and how they might evolve. And so it was really important for me to be able to get access to what these spiders are eating. And so for that, I struggled really for the last 10 years or so, trying to get good high definition video of these spiders out at night, all night long. And so some of the initial obstacles that I ran into with trying to figure out a solution to this is that most high definition IR cameras that you can purchase are $1,000 or more. Most of them struggle with battery life, where if you just use the battery on the camera, it's going to die within 3 hours. Most are also not field ready. So if you're working in the tropics like I typically do, these cameras are going to die from humidity or rain. This is actually a photo from my first field season where I kind of slept in a puddle by myself. And initially I looked into camera traps, but their working distance was 30 centimeters or greater. And so when I'm trying to record from a focal animal and get really good information on the ants and the crickets and the small things that they might be catching, I needed to try and come up with something better. I've had a couple of different recording kits with variable success, but this newest one that I've kind of put together seemed to be worth sharing. And the whole trick of it is just altering old GoPro cameras. And so it's kind of like anticlimactic. It's a really good system. I like it now, but it's really just using old cameras altering them to make them infrared sensitive. And the whole trick of that is just removing the lens. So these cameras are typically not IR sensitive because there's this IR cut filter on the back of the lens. All you have to do is remove that lens, which is really easy to do. I actually have one here. I can do it during questions if you want. It takes like 30 seconds to do. You can replace these lenses with any M12 lenses or S-mount lenses. which you can buy for $2, $5, depends on where you're buying it from. Yeah, you replace the lens with something without an IR filter, and you now have an IR sensitive camera that you just bought for $50 off of eBay. So these Hero 4s are, yeah, really cheap, really easy to find. For a whole kit that includes like SD cards, the camera, the battery as well. So the last speaker mentioned that GoPros typically don't last that long, which is totally correct. With a phone bank, though, you can power them for 12 hours. And that's like the cheap $10 phone banks that you can buy on Amazon. But with more, yeah, battery storage, you can actually get them to go for even longer. So the whole kit for 150 USD. There's so many different lenses that you can replace them with. M12 is, I mean, the most commonly found lens for PC boards and things like that. You can record for 12 hours, waterproof housing, lightweight and portable. You don't have to lug around car batteries in the tropics like I've done before. And you also can potentially record in high speed up to 24 frames per second. And you can record at macro scale. So you can get really close to focal animals if that's something you're interested in. So this is my setup from what I actually used in the spring in Australia. I was in the far north of Queensland, and I would bring out up to a dozen cameras by myself and set them up. You can set up a camera within 5 to 10 minutes. Finding the spiders was really the hardest part. And so this is the quality of the video that you can see. This is just an example. And it's the best quality video that I've ever had. I really wish I could go back to early grad school and have this set up. I'd have so much better data now. But for best uses, so I understand a lot of you are probably trying to record things for 30 days at a time. You might be recording larger areas. This is more of a specific need for continuously recording a focal animal or a focal area that you really want like really good information continuously. Daily replacement of batteries and data cards is going to be necessary. You're not going to be able to run these things for 24 hours, but you won't have to go out every couple hours and change the batteries like I've had to do in the past. They're also a useful tool in the lab if you've got a lab with students that are trying to film in infrared. You don't have to spend $1,000 on it anymore. You can literally just buy a GoPro and mess with the lens. So yeah, hopefully you find this useful, and thanks for your attention.
So I'm still stuck on the original video you posted of that spider throwing webs to catch things. That was wild.
You want to see it again?
Yeah. Of course that they're Australian, of course.
Yeah.
You had a lot of comments about like thumbs up for GoPros. Rob's been using GoPros in for den monitoring, and lots of people are
nice.
Saying Rob said he's hooked up GoPros to GoPro remotes connected to PRI sensors so they could get motion captures. Ed's asking, can you hack other GoPro models, or is it the Model 4 that's best, the only one that's easy to do?
Yeah, so you can use newer models, but the whole trick here is that the lenses that the Hero 3s and 4s use, those are M12s, and those are super common to find. They're very inexpensive. From the Hero 5s and beyond, they've changed the threading pitch. So the type of threading on the lens that you would replace is a lot less common, and so those lenses are harder to find, and they're $75 to $100 each. You can do it, but in terms of like a low cost, like I want to buy 10 cameras and let's go out as a lab sort of deal, it becomes a little bit harder when it's that much more expensive. But it's totally doable.
And Talia's got a question about how do you find the spiders? Did you miss that?
You just do it over and over. That's like my thing. I can go out and find spiders that look like sticks now.
And do they or the prey react to the IR?
Seemingly not. So you can, so I didn't talk about the lighting as well, but I use 950 nanometer lights, and I just hook it up to AA batteries. You just solder together the connectors. And so the IR is pretty deep, and I haven't seen anything, I guess, hit the light. I've seen things kind of like bump into the camera, but yeah, at this point, it doesn't seem to actually affect anybody.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to throw you into the chat where there's lots of comments and ideas bubbling away. So have fun. Thank you so much for sharing. That was awesome. And some unexpected biology thrown in there as well alongside the tech. We love that. So Jake and Holly, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jake from the Wild Labs team, and I'm here with Holly, our conservation tech intern, to talk to you more about the beta for the inventory, which is our project to build a dynamic, collaborative, wiki-inspired database of conservation technology. So I'm going to quickly run through what you can do on the inventory, what we've done so far, and how you can contribute at this early stage if you're interested. So let me just go to the next slide. So this entire project stems from a need voiced by the community to have a centralized place where it's more easy to find out what different conservation tech is available and how others are using it around the world. So the inventory is essentially a giant database of conservation tech, which is split into three categories: products, which includes hardware, software, and data, and R&D projects, which are mainly developing products, and organizations, which produce products or that people on Wild Labs are members of. And each of these sections has various ways that you can find ways to search and filter, and different visual ways that you can find different tech that you're interested in looking at. So just like Wikipedia, the entire purpose of this site is to be community edited and community contributed. So just like a wiki, Wild Labs members can add new content to the site, whether it be a product, an R&D, or organization. And any existing page can also be edited. So you can edit all the different sections of a page if you see something is incorrect, or if you want to add more content to the page, such as images, or as we'll get to, reviews, then any Wild Labs member can do that. So as I mentioned, Wild Labs members can leave informative reviews on products. So we found, especially in Holly's work as the conservation tech intern, we found that a lot of useful information about how applicable different products are to your specific project needs are often come through word of mouth, or they're buried in various publications across the internet. So we're trying to capture that information in the form of reviews and case studies so that it's more easily accessible to people in our community, and hopefully so they can compare different products. And now I'm going to quickly hand over to Holly, who is going to go over the work that she's been doing over the past 3 months related specifically to biologgers on the inventory. Holly?
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be speaking at my first variety hour. So yeah, I've just been looking through and filling out the biologging section of the inventory. My first stage of that was that I did a survey of anyone within the movement ecology space to get an understanding of what specific products they were using or what organizations they usually used. Thank you to everyone who filled out my survey. That was very helpful. We got a lot of good information about like what companies are selling specific products, or what products will be used for specific projects. And now we've been reaching out to people, and all of that information has been now placed upon the inventory, so that information was captured. And then we've been reaching out to people to try and get reviews of the specific products that they've each used, to try and capture that sort of how well something works. And I've also been doing some research to see how people are currently finding their tech, that they can so see how the inventory might help with the process of like finding different biologging tech. So thank you to anyone who's answered any of my questions, especially I can see Samantha and Lars in the chat have been very helpful with dealing with all my emails. So that's me. Over to you, Jake.
Yeah, thanks, Holly, for all your work over the past few months during your internship. And building on your work, we are starting to reach out to tech manufacturers and developers for their help in populating their products on the inventory. because we want to make sure that the information about products are obviously what manufacturers are happy with being on the inventory, and also getting some nice images from manufacturers that they want to feature of their products. And although we've designed the whole platform to be a collaborative wiki style shared space, based on the feedback from our developer community, we've built in some special privileges if you're a tech or R&D project owner. So what you can do is you can either click the claim button on a product page, or you can just email us if you want to be added your Wild Labs account as the contact for lots of different products from your company. And you'll get some features such as you can create what Wild Labs posts appear at the top of the page. You can see the edit history and revert changes. So if something's been changed that's been incorrect, you can just change it back to what it was. And you can respond to people's reviews, and you can get lots of notifications about if something's been edited. So you can keep an eye on your pages. And just to shout out that our next stage moving forward, once we're reaching out to manufacturers, is when you click on a review, there are little positive and negative traits for each product. And it turns out it's a lot more difficult than you would think to come up with a list of positive and negative traits for each tech type. So if anyone's interested in spending 10 minutes, if you're a camera trap expert, just telling me what you think the positive and negative traits are, that would be super helpful. But I will obviously be reaching out to people I know in the community as well. So thank you for listening. There is a QR code here if you would like to sign up to the beta. Thank you to everyone who has been signed up to the beta so far. We've got a long list that we're working through, just reaching out to different people with details on how to access the beta and to get you on board now that everything is ready for people to look at. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly and Jake. That was a great run through the inventory. Before I let you go, what is the most... Why are you excited about this finally launching to the community?
I think it's been such a long road of getting the platform usable for people and thinking about it for so long that it's just quite exciting to get some actual content, like I was mentioning, images and actual content on the pages, because I've spent a lot of time on the site, on sort of the testing site, with content that makes no sense because we don't have enough of the really interesting reviews from people or case studies yet. So it's finally to get our teeth into actually useful content that people are going to find useful to look at.
Who does the award for very first review go to?
Oh, I'd have to check that.
Nigel
Holly, do you remember?
Nigel Butcher, the RSPB. He did our first review, so very grateful for him.
We're so excited and hope this is going to be a really useful addition to what what our current platform already provides, and just finding, hopefully giving another way to surface advice and really useful information for other conservationists and academics and people in our world to share information and be able to access advice about what tech to use in their work. And we're hoping it's going to support a much broader user base than currently we have on Wild Labs as well. Though we've got 8,000 members, I think there's so many people in conservation who are using technology who don't necessarily have access to the sort of support that you can get through the forum. So we're hoping a wiki style, Amazon style platform will be really, really useful. And question, do we know if people can order a product here? That was actually part of our motivation for building this, because it's so hard to figure out where you can actually buy different products. So one of our core desired requirements was just a list on every product page where you can click through to where you can buy things. We don't want to be the place where you buy, like we don't want to be dealing with orders. We want to make sure you can find where you can buy different things from, whether it's from group gets for audiomorph or directly from manufacturers. So that's part of the information we want the manufacturers and also all of the community to add to all of the inventory pages and keep updated as well. And we're really conscious that, and we've built this in such a way that it's not really information heavy. It's really driven. It's a platform that's based on we've tried to design it so that it can be kept updated by the community. And if Rob, great example, if the community can notify each other when products go on special sale, that's awesome. So we're hoping hoping it'll be really useful. We'll be rolling it out more and more, but if you want early access, please get in touch and we'll get you on there. So with that, let us go to our quiz, and we're handing over to Henry for the first time. Henry, who joined our team 3 weeks ago, I think.
Right, thank you very much, Steph. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my first slide? Variety hour quiz. Yes, okay, I think you can. Well, hello everyone. My name is Henry. As Steph said, I joined the Wild Labs team only 3 weeks ago as a development manager. And this is only my second ever Variety Hour. And those of you that have joined Variety Hour before know that we like to sort of split things up with a little quiz or a little interlude feature. It used to be done by Ellie, who was a former Wild Labs team member. Unfortunately, Ellie's now left the team, so I've now taken over the quizzing responsibilities. There is currently a noise supposed to be playing right now, but it seems like that's not happening. So I'm going to pretend that I put in an echolocation sound, which of course no one is capable of hearing. So it's all good. But yeah, so I thought because it's my first ever quiz, I'd start with something. It's got a technology theme. Maybe it's easy. I can't really tell if it's easy or hard, but we'll find out. But what I've got is I've got 10 photos of animals wearing some sort of tracking radio collar or some sort of GPS technology. And I've really poorly edited the photos, so it should hopefully be quite hard to figure out which animal is actually in there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the edited picture, and you guys can either unmute yourselves and shout out what you think it is, or type in the chat.
No. I will be your quizman. No, do not unmute yourself and shout out. Use the chat.
Okay, don't do that.
That seems like a recipe for chaos.
Do not listen to me. Listen to Steph. Okay. Ready to get started on number 1? I think so. Okay. Easy start. Anyone tell me what animal in
what do you reckon?
And it is wearing some sort of tracking device.
Obviously not the lemurs. Lion from Robin.
Lion from Robin. What else have we got? Background is not related.
Dog.
The background is not related. There's going to be an animal background in all of them, but it's not related to the animal in front.
Henry's making it
hard.
Dog.
Any other suggestions? Lion,
penguin. Definitely.
It's not a penguin. It's not a duck, but we're getting there. Any more guesses? Surely lion.
Yeah.
Is it a lion? Komodo dragon? Bear?
Lioness.
We've got the right answer. It is in fact, okay, get this awesome effect. A lioness. There we go. We take a very accurate, hang on, there you go, a lioness. So lion, unfortunately, wasn't quite there, but we were getting close. So
okay,
give yourself...
so we have to be... Okay, Henry is a harsher quizmaster than Ellie ever was.
I'm known for writing really punishingly hard quizzes. That anyway, maybe that's a thing in the future. Okay, question 2. What is this? And it is not related to the background.
What is this? Swan from Jake.
Swan from Jake. No. Dingo. Not a dingo.
Dingo from Rob. Bird.
Not a bird. Okay, I'll give you a hint. There's a lot of white on the floor.
Fox? No. Penguin. Female
Fox.
Dingo. Tree kangaroo. Penguin.
Not a penguin. Not a penguin.
It's not a penguin.
Not a polar bear or a white
Swan.
Arctic fox. Ooh, getting there. It's close. That's as hard as I thought.
Is it one of those, you know, the foxes with the fennec fox? Is that it?
Very close, but I've just seen the right answer because the right answer is, of course,
Arctic hare, coyote.
Wolf.
Oh.
There you go.
Lars.
That transition again. There we go.
Wow, okay.
Give yourselves a point if you got wolf. Okay, question 3. What do we think this is?
Okay. Fish. Lion, elephant, seal. Are there more than one? Can I question? Are there more than one animal in this one?
Okay, there is more than one animal. Okay, you've got to get the animals in the background as well.
Okay. A fish. Talia's complaining this is quite hard. Gorilla,
I thought this one was going to be the hardest, but I've already seen the right answer.
Seal and penguin. Penguins in the background. Penguins.
Check out that tracking device on its head. It's pretty stylish, right? Doesn't seem super practical, but I know a lot about, tracking devices. And yeah, of course, it's a seal. Okay, question 4.
Red fox, fox, rabbit, fox.
Fox. Lots of foxes. It's not a fox.
It's not a fox. Coyote, cat.
Cat, coyote, cat,
Bobcat,
wildcat,
jaguar, cat.
is in fact a cat. Look at that. Excellent spot. I think it was the ears that kind of gave it away, just the sort of outline. And just to confirm, it is a cat with a terrifying bison standing behind it.
I love that Jay is taking the time to make serious answers to different questions that came up during his talk, and it's dispersing our quiz answers. We love the commitment. Okay, sloth, bear, sloth.
Lot of sloth, lazy bear. Is a lazy bear just another name for a sloth?
We should get some sensor types as well. Yes, that's bonus points if you get the correct sensor. Bear from Italia.
I won't be able to say whether it's correct or not, but okay. It's in fact a sloth. Well done to those of you who got it right. And look at that. And a lovely little sensor on top of its head. Best place for it. Okay, 6. Well, there's a lot of clues in this one.
Human.
Well done, those of you who got that. Okay, we're not. Okay, it's not the human. The human is related, but it is not the human.
Camel, goat.
Camel, camera trap, elk.
Elk. Nice to see you, Ingrid. We'll see you next time.
Okay,
Alpaca.
well done for the piece. Someone. Okay, we got camel pretty early. Well done. I'm impressed. I thought that one would take a little bit longer. So yeah,
Robin,
camel.
well done.
Question 7. What have we got here?
How many do we have in this quiz?
We've got 10. So.
Oh my god! I said 5. Okay, we'll sprint through. Bird, ostrich, pelican, alpaca, elk, ostrich,
goose,
duck.
That answer is a goose. Well done. That's very impressive. That one was extremely blurry.
I like this tracking theme as well. Are we going to do a technology theme each time as well? I'm
going to try and we'll see how far I get. Okay, what's this one? This one's pretty easy. Right?
Owl.
Owl. It is.
Nightmare.
Charlie is right. It is in fact a nightmare. No, it's an owl. And while you can't see a tracking device, I got this from a website which talking about tracking owls. So I think it counts. Okay, question 9. What have we got here?
Silence. Deathly silence.
A goat? It's not a goat. It's not a parrot.
Wolves.
It's not wolves. Finally, we've got a hard one. It's not nest of chicks. That's a really good shout there. It is not.
This is so hard. This particular layer you've got over it's really hard.
Okay, we've not seen this sort of order. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's not a bird and it's not a mammal.
Reptile?
It's not a reptile.
Frog?
No. It's not a reptile or an amphibian.
Fish?
I'll give you a hint. It's a very small thing which can be tracked. It's not an ogre face spider.
Dragonfly?
Dragonfly's very close. Oh, am I going to get one that no one gets? It is really hard though.
Bee?
Rob has got it. It is a bee. There you go. Well done. Look at that. The flower behind the giveaway. Really. And number 10. Finish up a nice easy one.
Dog. Does look like a dog.
Dog.
RFID.
Here's a lovely doggo with it. Really happy about having his GPS collar so he can stop running away. And it is a Staffy. There you go.
Nice, okay. Nice, Henry. I reckon next quiz where you have to include links to all of the projects to find out more about the tech.
That is actually a very good point. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. More photos coming away next month.
Nice.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Henry. Well done. Okay, Dan, you've got the rest of the time to do with what you will.
Excellent. Okay, everybody. Hey, everyone. I'm Dan from the AI for Nature Society program at Google. I'm going to be talking about 9 zillion projects in the next 14 minutes about computer vision for environmental monitoring.
Dan, you've got 18 minutes.
Even better, then I can talk about 11 zillion projects. So basically, I'm going to be throwing a million links at you. And I want to encourage, rather than doing this in PowerPoint and trying to frantically dump all the links in the end, I want to encourage everybody to click and explore the links while I'm talking and pay attention to me when you feel like it and tune me out when you feel like it. So I'm going to put a link, instead of presenting from slides and present from this GitHub repo, I'm going to put a link to this GitHub repo in the chat and encourage you, think of me as your tour guide for this README file and you can leave and rejoin the Tor group whenever you feel like it. And I'll be a little bit disappointed if everybody actually pays attention to me the whole time. Lots of links to click. Okay, couple of projects I'm not going to be talking about today that I want to call out because some of you folks know that I work with the bioacoustics folks here at Google. I work on the Wildlife Insights project, and if I talk about all these projects, I don't talk about Wildlife Insights, you might think, Dan, don't you think Wildlife Insights is cool too? How come no love for Wildlife Insights? Au contraire, I want to use peer pressure to get my colleagues to come talk at future Wild Labs events. So everybody get on their case and get my bioacoustics friends, my Wildlife Insights friends, some of whom are there on this chat right now, to come talk at a Wild Labs event soon. That's the only reason I'm not going into depth on these projects.
Do you want to call some people out by name, Dan, that we should?
No, I want you, Steph, to call people out by name. You know who you are. Wildlife Insights friends and bioacoustics friends, you know who you are. Okay, so what I am going to be talking about today is our work on using aerial imagery and machine learning for urban forestry, some work with USGS and US Fish and Wildlife on finding geese in aerial images, and everyone who knows me knows I can't go 15 minutes without talking about camera traps, so I'll squeeze in some camera trap stuff at the end. Also, by the way, there's like a 0% chance I'm actually going to get to the end of this README file. That's another reason I'm doing it like this, is because there's lots of links, and whatever I don't get to, I'll stop at 9 o'clock, and you can all read the links at your own time. Okay, so let's talk about trees first, which is a little uncomfortable for me since I only ever talk about pictures of animals, but we're gonna have to talk about pictures of trees for a few minutes because trees are important. In the lightning talk version of this, we're not gonna get into all the benefits of urban trees, but if you don't overthink it, mostly this work is about shade. There's lots of other benefits of trees, but with rising temperatures in cities, the #1 reason that urban foresters do what they do is this is a climate adaptation project, and it's really important to provide shade in hot cities. So don't overthink it. It's great. What does this have to do with AI? I'm not here to tell you about trees. I only ever talk about AI. Lots of folks here work on wildlife monitoring, and so you must think those urban foresters sure have it good. They have to monitor these things that never move, and they're huge, and they're green, and they're bright, and you can see them from space. So that sounds really easy, but actually, getting a detailed understanding of a city's tree canopy is actually still a very expensive proposition. It usually involves putting a plane in the air and either capturing bespoke imagery or bespoke LiDAR. Some cities can't afford to do that. And understanding where your tree canopy, some trees are on public land, some trees are not, some you can see from the street, some you can't. So actually understanding where a city's tree canopy is super important, but still super expensive. I am not, of course, going to tell you that AI to the rescue, AI can automate this, no one needs to take pictures of trees anymore, but the combination of imagery, AI, and imagery that's already out there really can help cities get started with urban forestry surveys for cities that haven't been doing detailed urban forestry inventories before, and can hopefully, even for cities with mature urban forestry programs, can hopefully reduce the time and cost of tree canopy assessments. So still, what does this have to do with Google? I work for Google. So when you go to Google Maps, you may take for granted that actually a super cool thing that Google has for sustainability applications is all that high-res imagery you see of cities all over the world. So Google has all this cool high-res imagery. Google does lots of AI. And so way before I ever got to Google, Google was finding all kinds of things in that imagery that are important to Google business and Google products, like trees and roads. And trees just happen to be one of the things that long before I got here, Google was already finding in that imagery. And so still long before I got to Google, some Google folks figured out that said, hey, we're doing a pretty good job finding trees and all this imagery. And cities are spending lots of time and money trying to find their tree canopy. Maybe we can connect the dots and roller skating key and everybody can be happy. And so making a long story short, now you can find lots of tree canopy estimates for lots of cities within the Google Environmental Insights Explorer product. If you hear me say EIE, that's short for Environmental Insights Explorer, this is a whole bunch of different data feeds that Google makes available for urban sustainability. I'm only going to show you the trees, but I hope everybody is clicking along with me and going to go explore your own city and then ignore me for a few minutes. So I expect to be ignored. I could maybe I'll use lots of profanity in the next 5 minutes because I hope everybody's playing with EIE and ignoring me. But anyway, I'm going to go search for Bellevue. That's where I live. And if I click over here on trees, I see this pretty visualization of our estimated tree canopy for Bellevue. I see a citywide estimated tree canopy. If I click on in the US, if I click on census tracts within Bellevue, I can get neighborhood level estimates of tree canopy. And I hope you're all now totally distracted by all these bright green pixels and clicking around on your own. So that app is kind of the foundation of what we're doing. That kind of gives you a feel for what the data is. And really I'm not going to talk about machine learning today. Really what I want to talk about is a couple of different ways we actually put that data to work for cities. There's basically 3 ways we take the output of that whole machine learning system and put it to work for cities. So one of them is the app I just showed you, the EIE app itself. So any of you have decision fatigue and couldn't decide what cities to search for. I've included some links to cities that look pretty in here for Zurich and Mexico City and Seattle. I had nothing to do with that front end, so I can say without being a total narcissist that I think it looks really good. And I think that's really important because actually the app itself is a really important communication tool for urban foresters for cities to get started who really have no idea of what their tree canopy is, but also for urban foresters to communicate with their citizens, and for urban foresters to use this as a tool to communicate with their leadership, to communicate with the mayor's office and help allocate resources for tree canopy planning. So the app itself is part of how we put data to work, but it's definitely not the only way. Yeah.
Dan, can I ask a question from Rob? Can it
Please.
measure tree cover loss or gain over time?
That's a really complicated answer for that.
Okay. So I shouldn't have interrupted.
No, it's fine. So we can generate this tree canopy estimate whenever imagery exists for cities. If you were collecting imagery for the purpose of tree canopy estimates, you would neatly fly over the whole city on a single day, every 2 years or something. You would do a very structured survey. That's not what this is. These pictures are taken for Google Maps, and they're taken whenever they're taken, and you might get part of a city 1 year and then a different part of the city 3 years later. So you can combine them, but you're sort of operating out of spec in the sense that, like, so for some cities, for really large cities, we have so much imagery that you really can put together a meaningful time series. For other cities, it's a little more complicated. So the answer is kind of sort of in some places.
Interesting. Cool.
So the app itself is an important part of what we do. Another part of what we do is there's a little link on the left side of that app. If you look carefully, there's a little link that says submit an application to get high resolution data for your city. If you are an urban forester working for a city, knowing, Google thinks this pixel is a tree and this pixel is not a tree is great, but to do any meaningful planning or analysis, you need to now overlay that with all kinds of data that only the city has. You need to know which land is public and which is private, and where can we fit a truck to plant trees, and where are the irrigation lines, all of those things that exist only within a city's GIS environment. So we do want to be able to provide that high resolution data to cities, but meet them where they're at so they can use it in their environment with all the data they have. So cities that fill out that link, that goes to a Google form. That Google form goes to me. This is like one of the most fun parts of my job now. I get to now prepare data and work with urban foresters all over the world. And we try to meet them where they're at, depending on the environment they're working in. So some cities are working with Google Earth Engine. So here's like a screenshot from somewhere in Edinburgh, that what you would get from us if you were working in Earth Engine. If that same city was working in other GIS environments, we might just send them GeoTIFF. So here's the same data, give or take, viewed in QGIS. So this really direct delivery of data to cities so they can work with it in their own environments is another important part of how we do what we do. And then lastly, we also provide data in like a bunch of different shapes to impact partners. And in particular, we've shared a whole bunch of data with American Forests to support their tree equity score platform. And maybe if you get distracted by one link in this entire talk and like totally ignore me for a while, go check out the tree equity score platform. It really is amazing. They're doing amazing work all over the US and soon expanding outside the US to help cities understand and mitigate social inequity in access to trees and green spaces. It's a really amazing platform. And so we're able to give them a whole bunch of data to scale their platform to places they didn't have data before and make it more accurate even where they did have data, because they were dependent on public 30-meter resolution data before. And so that sort of exists outside our direct relationship with cities and outside the app itself is working with partners like American Forests. And so if you work with urban foresters or city planners who might benefit from this kind of data, please encourage them to click that link. Encourage them to click that link, even if there's no tree data for their city in the EAE app right now. There's a million reasons why we might be able to provide data for a city, but they might not appear in the app. So, okay, so that is as long as I can go without talking about pictures of animals. So let's talk about pictures of animals, because that's what I like to do. In fact, specifically, let's talk about this little guy right here. This is a brant goose. The brant goose is distributed all over the Northern Hemisphere, but has a possibly declining population in the Western US and Canada. This is an airplane. You can put cameras on the bottom of it, and that's exactly what USGS and US Fish and Wildlife do to survey this brant goose population. They congregate at this particular lagoon in Alaska, and so every year USGS captures about 130,000 high-res images that look something like this. All of those little dots are in this image are brant geese. About 95% of the images they collect don't have any birds at all. You just have to believe me that there's no birds in this image. And brant are not the only bird in this area. So this image, again, you just have to believe me, has 4 different species of bird in it. So if you zoom way in, you can see there's these little brown fuzzy dots and these little slightly white fuzzy dots. Those are different species of geese. That's a brant and that's a Canada goose. And so they image around 100,000 brant every year, and then another 25,000 examples of other species. Counting all those is not only tedious. Counting all those would likely be prohibitive for continuing this monitoring program. It's was still kind of experimental, and this really was like, if we had to keep counting 100,000 birds manually, that was going to be a non-starter for me able to continue to do diligent monitoring of this species. And so I got connected to USGS, who had done an amazing job curating a really large data set with the help of this other no-code tool, Count Things, that like did a pretty good job, but not perfect. And they took the output from that system, did a ton of data curation. Once in a while, if you're a machine learning person, you stumble upon this magical gold mine of a data set that's huge, and somebody still cares about it, and it's really well curated. This almost never happens, but I just like walked into this amazing gold mine of data. So USGS had put over 400,000 training points on Brant and about another 60,000 training points on other species. And now you can basically imagine what's going to happen from here. The goal here was to train a model to get them out of the business of counting 100,000 geese every year, so that this monitoring program could continue to be run annually and continue to be maintainable. There's not a lot of like fancy deep learning to tell you about. We trained a YOLO v5 model, basically using off-the-shelf hyperparameters. The model, those images that you saw before, those are massive. They're like 8,000 by 7,000 or something. So that is not the atom on which the model runs. The model runs on little 1280 by 1280 patches that look kind of like this one. And because this is a lightning talk, I'm also not going to get into lots of detailed results with precision and recall graphs. There's only one result I care about, and that is, is the ecologist sufficiently happy with the results that they're not going to count 100,000 geese next year? And so to that, so far, the result seems to be an emphatic yes, starting with 2022 data that they've already collected. Again, I always caution, if I ever tell you that AI can completely automate anything, I owe everyone a granola bar. So I'm not going to tell you that AI can completely automate this, but the intention now is, for starting with the 2022 data that's already in hand, they will review between 5 and 10% of the total images, just to basically make sure that the model hasn't gone totally off the rails over time. And that we really believe that's the difference between this program being scalable and the program not being scalable. So I'm very happy with that. And you can click through for code. We've made the data publicly available. We're also working, this species also exists here in Washington, and Washington Fish and Wildlife does very similar flights to survey the species in Washington. So some of the work we're doing now is to try to adapt this model to work well in Washington. You can read all about it at the GitHub repo and check out the data. I'll say this really is just one of a million projects like this right now happening on AI tools for aerial and drone wildlife surveys. I think this field really is at an exciting inflection point right now, kind of where AI for camera traps was a few years ago. So there's lots of global data out there. There's starting to be some global models out there. So a bunch of us kind of got together and curated all of the public data sets that we're aware of into, I won't say into a common format, but like very close to that with some common metadata. So I'm telling you that, so go click that link if you're interested, play around with some public data sets, but also this little community effort of like dividing up the work of getting all those data sets into a common format, that was actually, I think, more successful than I thought it would be and super fun. So I encourage everybody to do that for other domains. Even before I knew what today's talks were, I swear I did not plant this just for today's talk. I actually think marine video is at like a similar inflection point where there's starting to be some public data out there and a clear need for AI. So I hope somebody goes and nudge everybody on this call. I hope somebody goes and like organizes one of these community efforts to curate all the public marine video data that's out there. Okay, and now that was a record amount of time for me to talk without saying the word camera trap. So now let's close with just a little bit about camera traps. I swear I'm not going to try to get through all of this. I know we're getting close to 9 o'clock. Do a couple updates on, in fact, the only thing I'll do now is a couple updates on megadetector. So for those of you who are not familiar with megadetector, this is an object detection model that finds animals, people, and vehicles in camera trap images like this one. In practice, even though it's an object detector, we really use it as an image classifier. We use it to classify images that are animal, person, vehicle, or empty. And really, most of what it gets used for is to help get ecologists out of the business of looking at empty images. We're currently at version 5 of megadetector that was trained in 2021 and released in 2022. Some of you Wild Labs veterans may remember that CU talked about megadetector version 4 at a Wild Labs event a long time ago. So the whole point of what I want to say now is I'm going to say none of what CU said. It's a great talk. Go watch it. It's all still sensible. I just want to summarize very quickly what's happened since CU last talked at a Wild Labs event. And so the biggest thing that's really happened since then is the release of megadetector v5 in 2022. This was a switch to YOLO v5, which we did some things to expand the training data and make it work better on some things that megadetector 4 really had trouble with, especially images like this where animals overlapped with man-made objects. These just drove megadetector 4 crazy. So there's that. But also the switch to WILDLAB.NET just made Megadetector 5 a lot faster than Megadetector 4. I had underestimated how important this was. I'm so glad that like CU was right and I was wrong. And she was like, oh, this is really worth this big architectural change, like high risk architectural change. People are going to care that it's faster. The change in speed really has allowed adoption of Megadetector to grow a lot. And so I'm super glad that CU was right and I was wrong. And so in addition to the release of Megadetector v5, the thing I'm most excited about in the last year and a half or so is this just amazing ecosystem of collaborators and other tools that use Megadetector that have grown up that really have turned this into a community project. We released a pile of bits and everybody else did all kinds of things to make it useful. I'm not going to go through all these, but what I've included here is a bunch of pretty screenshots, including one of my dog. There's Willow. Hi, Willow. Including one of my dog that just showing some of the tools that are out there putting Megadetector to work. Some of you who maintain these tools, like I saw Peter's here. This is Peter's tool, EcoAssist, that helps users run Megadetector. A whole bunch of tools that help people run Megadetector or use Megadetector results or work with Megadetector in online platforms that just like have really scaled way beyond what just we as model developers could do. So super thrilled to see all this over the last couple of years. And then lastly, in my little corner of the universe. So all that's happening, it's great. Although the model weights haven't changed since the release of Megadetector 5, a couple neat things that we're working on to make Megadetector better without actually changing the model weights. A couple areas we're focused on are one, as long as animals continue to try to look like rocks and sticks, sometimes you're going to pick up rocks and sticks and Megadetector is going to think they're animals. No amount of retraining is going to make that totally go away because animals are literally trying to look like rocks and sticks. We've made some significant improvements to the tools we use to help people get rid of all those rock and sticks that don't move like animals do. So that's one thing. We have recently added support for YOLO v5's test time augmentation, which I know now this is like the most technical nitty-gritty thing I'll talk about today, but like this is as close to a free lunch as exists in machine learning. You let inference run a little bit longer and magic happens, and you can find some things that Megadetector previously failed to find. I showed this example here because this is a grouse. This user is doing a survey just to find grouse, and Megadetector, this is not the easiest or the hardest thing in the world, but Megadetector was not doing great. It was missing more of these than we would have liked. This is a case where the test time augmentation built into WILDLAB.NET really did some magic and helped us find a whole bunch of these grouse that was missing and got this user out of the business of manually reviewing 3 million images. So I encourage everybody using Megadetector to go tinker with this test time augmentation tools. And we're right at time now, so I will now stop.
Okay.
Lots more links. Yeah.
Did you get through everything, Dan?
I promised I wouldn't.
Okay, everyone, there's more to explore. Your tour guide is checked out, but that was like an awesome sprint through some really cool stuff. I think half of us are still back on the trees. So thank you for sharing that. I wonder, Dan, what's the one thing you're most excited about that you're working on right now?
You totally just given me an excuse to just like add to more of the stuff that I didn't get to at the end. Right now, what I'm really excited about. So in these cases where Megadetector, I am obsessed with cases where Megadetector doesn't work. I love it when people send me examples of Megadetector not working. And there's no perfect fix for that. Like other than having all the training data in the universe, you'll always find things that it struggles on. So really trying to build up a workflow for taking the cases where it doesn't work and fine-tuning it to build like a little fork of Megadetector that works a little better on this thing that was previously failing, probably a little worse on everything else, and that's okay. And in particular, doing this right now for reptiles and sometimes for rodents, that's kind of maybe I'm giving this answer because my head was in camera traps at the end of the talk just now. So, but in the camera trap universe, that's the thing I'm most excited about right now is trying to make it so that like Megadetector doesn't have to work on everything. You can quickly fine-tune it into working better on the things that it was previously failing on, especially reptiles.
How did people work with you? Because I know previously there was a whole program that helped people connect, but how does Google find new projects to work on?
That is a very broad question. There's definitely different answers for these. I mean, like, I should say the common thread in all of the conservation projects, I'd say this is true at Google, at Microsoft too. It's not like we're a 500-person team and we're like, just email us. It's not like we come to WILDLABS talks. That's the best answer. Like, just email us. It's not like we're a 500-person team working on bioacoustics or camera traps. Everything is a little bit grassroots. So it's not like you have to like call the Google support number to get in touch with me. I'm here to learn from all of you on what we should be working on.
Okay, and one last question from Rob. Rob, do you want to ask it? I'll give you the floor. Since it's like 3 a.m.
Hi, Dan. I just had a very quick question. Somebody was asking me the other day about how long it would take for a complete novice with no, working knowledge of AI or mega detector or anything to be sent the link to get started with their data set. Roughly how long in your experience would it take now for somebody to get to a point where their data is getting processed?
To run mega detector on their data.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two questions buried in there. There's like how long to kind of learn what to do, and then how long to literally run it. I'll answer both of this. For novices that are just getting started now, I do encourage people to check out EcoAssist. I think Peter's on this call who maintains EcoAssist. EcoAssist is a GUI that helps people run mega detector, and you don't need to. So our standard instructions use the command line, and I'm proud that I believe I have a 100% success rate in coaching ecologists through using the Python command line. You don't have to know how to write code, but I understand that's not the most straightforward way, and sometimes it does take a couple emails. So now increasingly I encourage people to start with one of the GUI-based tools for doing that. And I think that part will be very quick now. I think we're getting to the point where it's like you pretty much drag and drop into a GUI. It's pretty close to that. The question of how long it takes to run your images, a good ballpark is if you don't have an NVIDIA GPU on your machine, you can process about somewhere between 25 and 50,000 images a day through Mega Detector version 5. So depending on how many images you have, like probably a long weekend gets through like all your images for a year, maybe. It depends. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, it's anywhere between 200,000 and 1 million images per day you can probably process.
Thanks.
Did that answer your questions?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
Hi, Peter.
Thank you so much, Dan. As always, I reckon you're probably going to be here for the after show. So if you're on the call right now, please hang out if you would like. We just generally have a more casual chat with folks in our community for the next half hour or so. But everyone else on the recording, lovely to see you. We'll see you again in a month. And thank you to all our wonderful speakers this month, this session. And we will see you next month. Bye, everyone.